5 years after Diana and I got married, she returned from a 6-month business trip, accompanied by her first love, Sam. Diana was already more than 3 months pregnant and explained that Sam had been going through a rough time. She asked if he could stay with us for a while. I refused, and she responded with a tone full of disdain, telling me not to be ungrateful. It seemed she had forgotten that this mansion belonged to me, and that her entire family had been living off my resources. At that moment, I made the decision to stop supporting them. With a smile, I called my lawyer to prepare the divorce papers immediately. A woman who married into a wealthy family should never be so bold as to bring her ex-husband back into our home. I had been eagerly anticipating Diana's return, and that morning, I had organized souvenirs I had collected over the past 6 months. I also asked the housekeeper, Mrs. Wilson, to prepare a table with her favorite dishes. When the front door opened, I was shocked to see Diana walking arm in arm with Sam. Sam approached me with a triumphant smile and said, "Liam, long time no see." My eyes immediately went to Diana's growing belly, and a surge of anger washed over me. Sam seemed to sense my anger, quickly walked over to me, grabbed my wrist, and whispered, "Liam, please don't be angry. It's all my fault. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Please, don't hurt Diana." His words hit me like a jolt. I couldn't say anything, but it was clear from his tone that Diana had been closely monitoring the situation, ready to protect Sam at all costs. I clenched my fists, glaring at Diana, and asked, "Aren't you going to explain?" Diana glanced at Sam, then calmly replied, "Let me take you to another room, and I'll explain everything." Her calm demeanor took me by surprise. In the 5 years of our marriage, I had never heard her speak to me like that. Fixing my gaze on her, she led Sam up the stairs. A chauffeur soon arrived with 3 large suitcases, as though to imply Sam had moved a significant portion of his belongings into our home. Though Sam seemed healthier than me, Diana treated him with utmost care, as if he were fragile. I slumped onto the sofa, waiting for Diana to explain herself. I could hear the sounds of laughter from upstairs, and just as I was about to storm up, the doorbell rang. Diana's parents barged in, visibly angry, and rushed upstairs without acknowledging me. I followed them and overheard Diana speaking to them. She explained, "I didn't mean to hide it from you, but I wasn't feeling well in the early stages of my pregnancy, and I was worried something might go wrong. I hope you can understand. Sam and I love each other, and the baby I'm carrying is your grandson. So please don't blame him." As I stood there, reflecting on our 5 years of marriage, I recalled how Diana always told me to be patient with her mother whenever we had a disagreement. She would say her mother was getting older and needed more understanding, never once speaking up for me. Back then, I thought it was just her personality, but now, seeing how she defended Sam, I realized how foolish I had been. Sam, holding Diana's mother's hand, spoke earnestly. "I never intended to break up Diana's marriage. We truly love each other. And I hope you can understand." As Diana's aunt and uncle, as well as her mother, listened, her mother's stern expression began to soften. I could sense that she was conflicted. For the past 5 years, I had been sending her money every month, and it was evident that Sam's financial situation wasn't as stable as mine. A sinking feeling filled my chest. Diana, my wife, not only failed to warn me about the situation, but also humiliated me in front of her family. Did she really think I had no pride or self-respect? In the heavy silence that followed, Diana's eyes suddenly welled up with tears, and she began to cry. The child in her womb stirred. Diana's eyes filled with large tears as she sobbed, "My child is innocent, and I will give birth to him no matter what. You can scold me all you want, but I hope my baby won't suffer." Sam, looking pained, gently wiped away her tears before turning to her mother. "Please, Mom, answer her. You know pregnant women need emotional stability." Shortly after we married, Diana's parents had begun pressuring us to have a child. For 5 years we tried, and I knew they had spoken unkindly about me behind my back, pressuring us to continue the family line. Diana's father, who had been silent until now, finally spoke up, stating that Diana was considering the future of our family and that we all needed to control our tempers in the coming months. Once he finished speaking, everyone's attention turned to me. They stood united, and for a brief moment, I felt like an outsider. A bitter laugh escaped me. "Does no one care about my opinion?" I asked, my frustration growing. Seeing my reaction, Sam immediately stepped in front of Diana, glaring at me. "Liam, are you deaf? We've said everything to your face. What more do you want to know?" I couldn't help but laugh bitterly. My wife had been away for 6 months on a business trip, and she returned with such a surprise. Not only did she fail to explain things to me directly, but she also spoke to me as though she were in control, giving commands in a brazen tone. When I remained silent, Diana started crying again, sobbing while pulling at Sam's wrist. "Liam is really angry. Maybe I should leave," she said. Her mother, who was not pleased with this, immediately responded, "You're taking care of our grandson. How could we let you go?" Sam turned to me with a fierce expression. "Say something. Look at what you've done to Diana. She's pregnant with my child. If you have any objections, you can raise them privately. But don't you dare hurt her." Simon, seeming increasingly uncomfortable, gently took Diana's wrist. "Diana, please, I think this has gone too far. Maybe I should leave. I don't want to cause more trouble between you two." His eyes brimmed with tears, looking like a dramatic scene from a soap opera. A wave of disgust washed over me. As usual, Diana quickly comforted him, wrapping him in a protective embrace and whispering something I couldn't hear, but it clearly calmed him. I stood there, watching the scene unfold in my own house. They were openly challenging and humiliating me. A cold, almost calculating feeling washed over me. I was done. There was nothing more to say. But inside, I had already made my decision. This was the last day Diana and Sam would set foot in my house without my permission. Watching Diana defend him and treat me like an obstacle, like a stranger, was the final straw. I turned resolutely towards my office and picked up the phone, dialing my lawyer. I needed to act quickly before Diana and Sam became an even more unbearable presence in my life. I explained everything, the humiliation, the lies, and everything I had endured. My lawyer assured me that everything, from the house to the accounts and assets, was in my name. I already knew this, but hearing it from someone I trusted gave me the strength I needed. I heard footsteps behind me. Diana must have been confused by my sudden departure. Her voice was thick with disdain when she asked, "What are you doing, Liam? Are you going to avoid the conversation again?" I looked at her calmly, which clearly surprised her. I hung up the phone and slid it into my pocket, slowly standing up. Taking a deep breath, I looked at her, watching the condescending expression on her face, as if she had won some victory. "You accuse me of avoiding this conversation, but in truth, you're the one avoiding everything," I said firmly. "You've avoided our marriage, avoided the respect we once had for each other, and now you have the audacity to get pregnant and bring another man into my home, as if I were just a bystander in your life." She let out a dismissive laugh. "Liam, do you really think these words will intimidate me? I have a past, we have wealth, and we're secure. Do you believe that all these years of paying the bills and managing everything mean you control me?" She seemed convinced that she held all the power in the situation, her demeanor exuding dominance. But I knew it was nothing more than a facade. Diana kept speaking, but I tuned her out. I walked over to the door, swung it open, and gestured firmly for her to leave. "This is not an invitation, Diana. It's a warning. Take your things and leave. I'll have the divorce papers ready soon, and I'll make sure your family knows they won't be seeing me again." Her confident attitude shifted to one of surprise and then panic. She hesitated, trying to regain control. "Liam, you're overreacting. You wouldn't really do this. You wouldn't stoop so low." I gave her a smile she had never seen before, one full of finality. "Oh, Diana, You have no idea how much I've tried to be patient with you over the years. I've endured your mother's remarks, the constant undermining and the humiliations. But I always held on to hope that one day you'd appreciate the life we built. Now it's clear that you never respected me." She attempted to defend herself, but Sam, sensing the shift, interrupted her. He was starting to understand that the man in front of him was no longer the pushover he once knew. He instinctively placed a hand protectively over Diana's stomach, as if I were a threat. "I think it's best if we leave," Sam said, trying to de-escalate the situation. I looked him directly in the eye and replied, "Yes, I think that's best. I made it clear that I wouldn't be deceived again. You must leave today." Sam shot me a look of pure hatred, but I remained resolute. They both left the room, and I watched as Diana packed their bags. Her pride was wounded, but without another word, they left the house that held so many memories, both joyful and painful. When the door shut behind them, I felt a deep sense of relief, though tinged with sadness. Not for Diana, but for the years I had wasted on someone who had never truly understood me. I called my lawyer again, informed him of Diana's departure, and instructed him to continue the divorce proceedings. That evening, I sat at the dining table, calmly eating and reflecting on the future, thinking about everything I still needed to rebuild. In that moment, I made a firm decision. I would never allow anyone to treat me the way Diana had, and I would stand firm, no matter what came next. After they left, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. For the first time, I felt completely in control of my life, my decisions, and most importantly, of everything they had tried to throw at me. But that feeling wasn't enough. I knew they had escaped too easily, without fully understanding the consequences of their actions. It was like an unresolved wound, and I couldn't let it go. Over the next few days, I kept in close contact with my lawyer to speed up the divorce process. The house, bank accounts, and all of Diana's assets were tied to my name. With a single signature, she would lose almost everything. For years, she had enjoyed a life of luxury, lavish travels and gourmet meals, all made possible because of me. Now, that lifestyle was about to be taken away, and I intended for her to feel the weight of it. The first news I heard was that Diana was scrambling to find somewhere to live with Sam. They moved into a small apartment in the suburbs, a far cry from the luxurious lifestyle she had grown accustomed to. Sam, of course, was less than thrilled with their new life. He had come into my world with plans to take my place. But the reality was that they now shared a cramped apartment, a stark contrast to the life of opulence Diana once knew. Diana was left devastated after the divorce. Her professional life wasn't much better, so I decided to sever all the connections she had through me. I reached out to everyone in our business network to notify them of the divorce, making it clear that she no longer represented my company. The effects were immediate. Diana lost the clients, contacts, and connections that I had worked tirelessly to build. To me, she was now just another person in the crowd. These steps, though important, didn't feel like enough. I wanted Diana and Sam to truly understand the weight of their choices. So, I took more direct action. I hired a private investigator to monitor their lives in the small apartment they had moved into. It didn't take long before I received a thorough report detailing their struggles. Sam, frustrated with their new life, complained about the lack of money, the poor living conditions, and most of all, Diana's inability to support him in the lifestyle he felt entitled to. The investigator sent photos of their crumbling dreams. But my plan wasn't finished yet. I reached out to the remaining contacts I had in the industry and found Sam a job as an assistant at a small company, an almost insulting position for someone like him. But it was exactly what I wanted. Sam, hoping to climb the ranks and regain the lifestyle he had lost, eagerly accepted the job. Diana, too, had to settle for a position beneath her previous one. She found work at a mid-sized company, but her reputation had been tarnished. People now saw her as a woman who had married for money, and without the wealth I had provided, she was barely scraping by. One day, I decided to confront them, but in a subtle way. I knew where they typically had lunch, a small restaurant near Sam's office, so I walked in as if nothing had changed. I knew they'd be there. As I approached their table, I could sense the discomfort in the air. Diana and Sam looked up at me in surprise. Well, I said with a smile. I just wanted to see how you two were doing. I've heard life has changed quite a bit for you. They both stayed silent, clearly uneasy. I looked them over, taking in their simple clothes and worn-out appearances. Sam tried to remain composed, but it was obvious that my presence bothered him. "We're fine," he said stiffly. "In the end, I think everyone got what they wanted." I chuckled softly. "Oh, definitely. At least I have peace." I paused for effect. "I hope you both enjoy your new life. Make the most of it." My words were laced with sarcasm as I turned and walked away, leaving them behind with their unremarkable lives. At that moment, I felt a sense of liberation. They were trapped in the reality they had created, and I no longer needed to do anything to make their situation worse. Diana had traded her security and comfort with me for an illusion, and Sam, who thought he could take my place, was now stuck in a life far beneath what he believed he deserved. I returned home with a deep sense of satisfaction. Every step of my revenge had been calculated, and they would face the consequences of their choices on their own. I didn't need to intervene further. Life was already doing the work for me. Over the next few months, I focused on rebuilding my own peace and freedom. I invested in myself, rekindled old passions, traveled to places I'd always dreamed of visiting, and explored new business opportunities. I had finally created a life free from the past. As for Diana and Sam, I heard their relationship didn't last. Sam, dissatisfied and frustrated, eventually left Diana with nothing, and she was left all alone. When I learned how it ended, I couldn't help but smile. They had made their own choices, and now they were reaping the consequences. For me, I felt like I had finally closed that chapter of my life.